What I want to talk to you, Lee, before we get into the game, let's talk about Harry Kane and let's talk about England. Because why can you not celebrate a Harry Kane goal for England? Tell me why.
Why? Because for 9 months, I'm I don't like him. You know what I mean? So I don't want him to do well. But so I've always been there. Probably bad of me, really. But I blame my dad because he was the same, sort of brought up on that. So I don't. So I never used to, be honest, and this is a bad thing of me. I have told this story. I didn't celebrate Teddy Sheringham's goals when he played for Spurs, but I've met Teddy Sheringham and get on really well with him. He's a really nice guy. So yeah, he called me to see you in. Like, I'm not saying what he said after that, you know. So, but we get on really well. So it's really bad that I do think that. And look, listen, Harry Kane's a good player, but that's the way it is, you know. But look, what about Harry Kane? You know, I've got to say this: is he dropped into midfield to try and get his transfer fee down? Because you know, midfielders are not as worth as much as strikers, are they? Not, you know, so
yeah, tell that to Kevin De Bruyne.
You know, well,
Aubameyang coming his future hasn't exactly helped, has it?
No, his price has gone down. So his wages have gone up and his price has gone down. Like, you know,
Wait, so is that a blanket rule for any Spurs player? You don't celebrate if they score a goal for England, or just Harry Kane?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them. There's only one player that I've celebrated, and that's it. One player because I know him, like, you know what I mean. So that's Ryan Mason, like, Ryan Mason. So I know his dad. So me and his dad grew up as we're friends. So I've known Ryan since he was a kid. So I have actually gone to Spurs games, watching him. But it was a great day when he decided to leave. But you know, unfortunately things didn't work out for him there. But yeah, so I have gone to a few Spurs games. But obviously after getting involved with all this sort of stuff, I had to stop going. I had to stop going for safety reasons. So there you go.
Fair enough. But moving on to the game, as a kind of like outsider from Spurs at the moment, I mean, how do you assess kind of Nuno regime has started so far at Spurs? How do you think we're doing so far this season?
Well, bit hit and miss, I suppose, a bit like Arsenal, I suppose, if you look at it now. I think in the first, you know, fine margins in games, isn't it? You know, Manchester City probably should have been 2 or 3 up before Spurs scored, and get the result against Manchester City, you're thinking, well, it's going well. Then
they never had a shot on goal the whole game, Man City.
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, they did. They missed a couple of open goals. Always seems to do it against you. Manchester City missed chance
I would say in previous years that was true, but I think this year I don't think that was the case, to be honest.
They had right at the beginning of the game, they had a couple
of shots. You know, I didn't think Manchester City played that well, to be honest. But you know, you got the result, and you think to yourself, well, this is, you know, his first game of the season to beat Man City. That's a bonus. I don't care what anybody says. But then, you know, 2-1-0 games, and then you're top of the league. When the international break come along, weren't you? Like, and a certain team was bottom. You know, so you imagine I got a lot of stick. I was just saying to you earlier on that one of my Spurs mates put the old Spurs, because you had those flags flying in that bloody game or whatever, like, so I had a Spurs flag posted through my door. So thank you very much for that. You know what I mean? It certainly went on the fire. But anyway, yeah. So. And then the last couple of games, well, and I've got to ask a question about Nuno, because I don't know why managers do this, even at a professional level. Your best player or defender was the right back. I can't say his name. Tanganga played at right back, brilliant, absolute find of the season. You know what I mean, like right back. Then you go against Crystal Palace and you put him in a central defender. I.e., he gets sent off. You lose the game 3-0.
We had a lack of options. That was the thing.
Really? Well, you had Rondon on the bench.
Rodon was on the bench, yeah, fair enough. But, you know, Romero was quarantining, Sanchez was quarantining, Dyer got injured in the first 15 minutes of the game. So it was very difficult. Nuno was kind of forced in his hand in that game.
Well, I felt, you know, if he was playing really well at right back, and I just think, you know, it cost you. You know, it cost you with the sending off, and you know, Zaha had a field day on the left hand side, which is a good player, as we know. And of course, you know, I was sending all my Spurs mates the old Patrick Vieira smile, you know, a picture which was very, very good. Go on, Patrick.
Don't worry, the old Vieira chance of running right. Don't you worry about that.
So good old Patrick. Well done, Patrick. Because then we went to the game after that. We hadn't won a game by then, but, and of course it was all Vieira songs going into the Emirates. But
that's what's become Arsenal.
And then the game against Chelsea. I thought first half, I was thinking, God, it's going to happen again. You know what I mean? Like Tottenham, Chelsea didn't really look like they was at it. But that's, I think, more credit to Tottenham. But then second half, well, if I was a Chelsea fan, I would have been annoyed that it was only 3. I would like to have rubbed it in, but first half it could have been different. So I think it's a bit of a mixed bag with Spurs. I always say, I think with Spurs, and I'm being really honest when I say this, you've got some poor players, a little bit like Arsenal, but you have 2 world-class players, and they will get you out of the mire every more than not.
Do Arsenal have any world-class players?
Not at this moment in time.
Don't think so.
I don't think so. Partey could.
They got a world-class cone man. That's what they got.
They got a world-class what?
Cone man.
Got Kane, man. Well, I don't know about that. But I think we've potentially got some world-class players, potentially young players coming through. Saka, Smith Rowe, Odegaard. They potentially could be top class. But at this moment in time, generally world-class players, you would say that Tottenham have got 2. And I think, at a push, I'd say Partey because of injuries. If once he's fit and he's up and running, we'll see. But then that's why Spurs are in this game and in other games. If you keep yourselves in it, you've always got them 2 that can get you out of it.
That's true.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. With those 2 players as well, they both scored against Arsenal last year, didn't they?
They always score against Arsenal, So.
But in terms of going back to Aubameyang, obviously, since he signed that contract, do you think his head's not in it anymore at Arsenal?
I think I look at it as two trains of thought with this. One is that I think that he signed the contract and was promised things, because if you sign a big contract like that, basically he could have gone to other clubs for nothing, and probably we didn't know the pandemic was coming, but he could have had an option with a lot of clubs. But I think that things were maybe promised to him, midfield players, etc., and it didn't happen. So he maybe just.
Well, you got a Thomas Partey, didn't you?
We did get Thomas Partey, but I think he even spoke about, it'd be good when a while comes, and we never got that, and a couple of little things there. So I don't know if that's one. The other one is a system that Arsenal plays very, very negative. Under Arteta, I watched it even against Wimbledon. I know we won 3-0. It was 1-0 for quite a while, and I thought, well, this ain't a pressure game. Just look and see what's happening with the system. And as soon as Arsenal lose the ball, the 2 wide players, attacking options, have to get back behind the ball. So I think that the tactic is, right, make sure you get behind the ball. When I play, sometimes the manager say, right, as soon as you lose it, you've got to get behind the ball, and then you go from there. Of course, what that does then is leave the one man up front very isolated. And if you haven't got the hold-up skills of a Lukaku or Harry Kane or someone like that, which is Aubameyang's weakest part of his game, you ain't going to get so much. So I think maybe system is costly. And
also his, I know his players last a lot longer nowadays, but he was so reliant on his speed, wasn't he, Aubameyang? Does he still have that?
Yeah, he's still got that. He's still got that pace. He's still got that pace. But I think defenders are still, have got a quick, and they not most defenders are quick as well, like these days. So he's, he has got that there. Listen, what's been the worrying thing for me with him is that he's had good chances. He's still getting in the positions for the chance, but he's not putting them away. And that one way you look at it and say, well, he's creating the chances or getting the chances, but he's not putting them away. But one of those things, I think, free-flowing Arsenal, you used to probably think, well, I'll get 2 or 3 chances. Now you're only going to get 1. So you probably snatch it or something like that. So
is that solely down to the manager and his tactics?
Well, as I was saying, 2 trains of thought, and I think that maybe that is one of them. Yeah, I do think that the system is not probably helping him. Where I look at Tottenham, the system is built, or it was over the last couple of seasons, for Song and Kane.
Yeah, it was. But moving on to the game kind of thing, I was going to ask you, maybe tell me where Arsenal's flaws are, but I'm going to ask you where Arsenal's strengths are, because there's not many strengths in there. So tell me, where do you think Arsenal's strengths are, and where can the game be won and lost this weekend?
I honestly think, like most games, midfield. I think midfield is key area, and I think that both teams have got weaknesses in there, and so we could exploit yours, you could exploit ours. So depending on who we play, and I think the same with you, depending on who play, So, but I think that will be a key battle.
Do you expect Xhaka to come straight back in?
Well, this is the thing, I know that I put a thing up on Twitter today about that, whether, because I don't think that he should, but I think that he will.
You think he will?
Yeah, I think that he will.
Who will he coming in place of?
I don't know, because this is, someone said this on my channel yesterday, that he's, in all the 3 games that Xhaka's been out, he's changed the midfield. So he hasn't given that opportunity for someone to nail down a place. You know, so whether that's very, very clever of him, so that he can actually bring him back. I didn't really think of that, but that is a good point. I think Arsenal, you know, surprised me, if I'll be honest, with the way we went against Burnley, because I thought we'd have played Lokonga in there, who, by the way, is going to be a really, really good player for us if he stays injury free. I thought we would have played him because it was against Burnley, a little bit more physical, but he went with Odegaard and Smith Rowe in there, so I'd like to see them two again against Tottenham on Sunday, because I think that quick players moving it around quick will be better for us, but we'll have to wait and see. But I've got a funny feeling that our old mate Granit's going to be in the team night. You know?
You expect Pepe and Saka both to be on the wing?
Yeah, I think because of, I don't, you know, like, I don't know what everybody thinks about Pepe, but I think that he's got tremendous talent, but doesn't do enough for me with that talent. That's my opinion, you know. But I think he's on borrowed time now. I don't think he's really he's not really set the team alight the last 3 games. Didn't play on Wednesday, wasn't part of the squad on Wednesday, so I'd imagine that he's going to be given the go on Sunday. And I think it's, you know, time to deliver Pepe. Like, you know, he's got to deliver, and because he has got ability, he can beat a player for fun, but he doesn't do it enough for me.
He always seems to like have a flurry of goals at the end of seasons. At the end of the season, he'll score like 5 or 6 goals or 7 goals, but doesn't do anything throughout the rest of the season.
No, and he's got to start doing it now. You know, you can look at that and say, because it's the end of the season, a lot of players are on holiday at that sort of stage. It's not such intense games, which is true. Which intense tomorrow on Sunday it will be. And he's got a very, very good finisher, by the way. When he gets in one-on-ones, he genuinely finishes. So, but he needs to start, you know, performing, and there's no better place than Sunday against Spurs.
Definitely.
Do you think there's, you know, you've given Saka the number 7 shirt, you've given Smith Rowe the number 10 shirt this season. Do you think they're ready for that kind of responsibility to hold? I know it's only a shirt number, but like what it represents is like how big of a player they're going to be for you. And like, I know Saka's like 19, 20, Smith Rowe also 20. They're good players, but are they good enough at the moment to be leading players for Arsenal?
Well, they shouldn't be. The fact of the matter is, you know, I go back to, and I was saying this the other day, you know, Liam Brady was a fantastic player for Arsenal. You guys won't remember him, but he was a fantastic player. Glenn Hoddle was a fantastic player for Spurs. But when they was 18, 19, you know, they weren't relied on at Tottenham and Arsenal, by the way, when they was probably, I think that the most older fans would turn around and say that Liam Brady and Glenn Hoddle were 2 of the best midfield players to ever grace Arsenal and Spurs at the time. But when they was playing then, both teams were struggling at the bottom of the league, believe it or not, in the mid-70s and that. But they wasn't relied on. You know, and if you ever go back and watch those games revisiting and all that, you know, the Glenn Hoddle and Liam Brady weren't the Liam Brady and Glenn Hoddle that they become. But they were 18, 19, finding their way through it to become the legends that they were. But now you're asking players like Saka to be taking Arsenal forward. Listen, he's good enough to do it, but you know, at 19 years of age, you should be learning your trade and like relying on other players to be guiding you a little bit more. And that is a problem with Arsenal. They are going to be very, very good players, and Saka is a very, very good player. He's no someone like Cesc Fabregas is it's a one-off. You know, when he's 16, 17, dominating games, it's a one-off. Yeah. You know, but you know, a freak, if I'll be honest. You know, to be doing it at that age. So I don't think you should be like. And then when he goes and plays for England, he's got good players all around him. He shines. Because he hasn't got the pressure of, I've got to do things here and make things happen. And that, you know, like where with Tottenham, you can put the pressure on Harry Kane and Song, because they've got the experience to be able to handle that.
What do you think it is about North London derbies where the home team really always not always, but most times comes out on top, and it really is the home team that has the ascendancy in the North London derby?
I think it's a massive thing. You know, that, like, what it does show you over the years is, and well, over the last few years, there's not a great difference between both teams, but ultimately home advantage is key. As we were saying earlier on, you know, Arsenal, when they was, you know, winning leagues, and I'll get that in mind here, winning leagues and being invincible and that, would win comfortably at home, but going to White Hart Lane was was a difficult game. You know, we'd come out of there with some well fought draws. And the odd occasional defeat when we was so much better. But now, as I say, we were saying Thomas Rosicky was the last time that Arsenal won a league game there, or Flamini.
And
if
Van
you
der
want to
Vaart
go
was the
league
last time we won league
yeah.
with you.
So I do think, and I always say that. You know what I mean? I've always said that about North London derbies, and you know, I'm never being arrogant when I say this. You know, win the home game, draw the away game. You know, but if you can't win it, bloody don't lose it, and that's it. If someone said to me now, what would you take? Like, you know, I'd say I'll take a draw at home, a draw away. I don't ever want to lose. You know what I mean?
We'll never have to think about it.
Yeah. I'd
You know
say
what I
that
mean?
because I wouldn't want someone saying, "Oh, let's only going to get 2 points." Yeah, but you could, listen. If we win, it's great. If we lose, it's not so great. So I'll always, I just don't want to lose against Tottenham. That's the main priority for me.
I remember feeling that when our first North London derby at White Hart at the new stadium. Like I remember feeling like, obviously I want to win, but like I do not want to lose our first North London derby.
No.
So I'll take a draw. I'll literally take a draw.
Take a draw.
I don't
We
want
lost
to
to West Ham. We lost to Chelsea. We
Yeah.
couldn't have lost to bloody
I'm
Arsenal.
not
you know what I
losing
mean?
to Arsenal in our first North London derby. Not happening. Obviously we did win in the end, but do you think Arsenal, on the back of 3 consecutive wins, are they maybe buoyant going into, not buoyant, but a bit of momentum, or do you think the wins paper over the cracks of what's happening?
Well, I don't know, because I think. Listen, I think this game is going to tell us a lot about Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, and next week's game against Brighton. The first couple of games, I'm not saying you can write it off. You had it with Crystal Palace when you had a lot of injuries, and this is his team now. You know, we the whole back four is completely different. So for the first 2 games, I think you've got to build a little bit of confidence and everything. Look, if you lose 5-0, and so your game against Chelsea, we was never in it. I know, you actually got beat by us by more, but you was in the game at half time until the second half. We was never really in it. And Manchester City, well, I was quite happy to get out with 5, so that shows you. So, confidence has got to be built. How you build confidence? Keeping clean sheets. I know that it's only against Norwich and it's against Burnley, but there's no easy games in the Premier League, and I'm sure when you go up there in the League Cup at Burnley, you might get through, but it won't be easy.
No, it won't be it'll be a tough ride
So,
for sure.
So and so we've got the results there. So we're building foundations to go on, but it's key. Obviously, this game's key. We're at home as well. We need to put in a performance. More, forget whether it's Spurs or not. We just need to keep winning games and show that we are getting back. At this moment in time, no one's convinced, But if you
Jury out on Arteta. Right.
Jury, yeah, because I think he needs, from me, he needs to convince me that he's the man. At the moment, a win against Norwich and a 1-0 win against Burnley and Norwich is not convincing me. A nice little win against Spurs will help. I'm not saying if we was to beat Spurs 1-2-0, that ain't going to say, oh right, yeah, everything's all right with Mikel. He's got to go on a run, and part of that run is beating Spurs. It's the same with you guys, I mean, you had 3 wins, whatever happens on Sunday for you will define a little bit. I think it's more important to Arsenal than Tottenham, if I'll be honest. But you'll be looking at this and going, right, what's your manager got? What has he got? Has he got the things that we need to take us on? And I think that both teams are in that position at the moment where standards, I think, have dropped. When you look at what Pochettino done at Tottenham, I always say this when I come out of White Hart Lane and you beat us 2-0, which was the last time. It was the last game at White Hart Lane before
last
that.
North London derby at White Hart Lane.
Last North London. We was outplayed.
Yeah.
And I've never ever seen Arsenal be comfortably beaten in a North London derby all through my time. I thought, whoa, this is problems, you know what I mean? But it didn't kick on because you had to go to Wembley and all that. But because of that, I think standards at Tottenham, I'm not saying because of whatever, have just dropped a little bit because they was hard standards to keep up with.
They were hard standards. And talking about kind of Arsenal standards and Mikel Arteta, I mean, if you do come to defeat this weekend, How much pressure is the guy? I know he's under pressure already, but how much more pressure is he under?
It's a massive game for Mikel Arteta. Listen, he hasn't got the Arsenal fans on his side. There's no two ways about that. Like, you know, a lot of them are on the fence. A lot have jumped on the fence. But look, beating Tottenham and getting a run of wins and that will get them back on the fence. I'm not saying it's going to.
Where do you stand?
I'm not convinced of him. I'll be honest. I see games and you go back to the game when you beat us at White Hart Lane last year. You knew exactly how Tottenham and Mourinho was going to set up, and he just played straight into his hands. So I didn't like things like that. So for me, I think that there are problems, and I'm not convinced. I'll tell you what, though, he would convince me if he was to beat Spurs convincingly, and then go and beat Brighton, then go and beat Villa, go and beat Palace, and then you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 games on the spin. And I can then turn around and go, well, he's got his signings, and I would be a little bit more convinced. But it's going to take more than a win against Spurs, if I'll be honest.
After 2 consecutive 8th place finishes under Arteta, where does he need to finish this season to be stable in his job? Do you think? Where do you think he needs to finish?
That's a good question. A good question. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's got to. Listen, we ain't challenging for the title, and I don't think we're going to challenge for top 4 this season. So top 6 and above you lot.
So
I think
if it's 7th place, you don't think that's good enough. He's got
no. I think he's got to get higher than that. I think he's got to get higher than that, and he's got to get higher than you boys as well.
Is that enough though? Just finishing?
Not really.
Tottenham, you know
not really. No, of course it's not. You know what I mean? Like, but you got to start somewhere.
If I said last season you were going to finish 8th at the end of the season, you would have probably said that's not good enough.
Bin him off.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's why Arsenal fans are like it is. You look at Tottenham, and whether you think it's right or whether you don't, and what the circumstances were, Mourinho failed to where you wanted to get him, so you got rid of him.
Yeah.
So Arsenal go down a different policy. Arsenal have never been a sacking club as managers. It's been probably there's been managers in my time that have probably. And I've 3 or 4 managers in my. I've had more managers in the last 4 or 5 years than I've had for all before that, But there's probably a few that probably should have gone a little bit earlier than what they have. But Tottenham, we
hire and fire regularly.
And you can think what you like on that, but ultimately Mourinho failed.
But back on Arteta though, does he have enough at his disposal to get where you guys want to be, or even challenging to where you want to be?
Do you have a better squad than Spurs? Do you think you have a better squad than Spurs right now?
Maybe, but as I said earlier on, I think that Tottenham, can hide away from things like that because they've got the two world class players. You can argue about the goalkeepers. You can, I think Gabriel's a good player, by the way. But I don't know. I think that's a tough one. I think that I think over the last sort of you can go back to Wenger's great days and all that. Not one Spurs player would get into the Arsenal team. Then over the last 10 years, there was more Spurs players getting into the Arsenal team.
I think if you do a combined 11 now, no more than 3 Arsenal players get in.
No more than 3.
Yeah, and I'll tell you which 3. Probably Saka, Partey, and if I'm going to give you one more, maybe one of your centre-back, Gabriel, maybe.
Tierney would, like Gabriel would.
I don't know if Gabriel's not a cert, but I think the other 3, Tierney, Saka and...
I've seen your right back twice and I've seen our right back twice. I know which one I'd have at the moment, but you
can't call that right now.
You can't call that, so I'll go along with that. Lloris is a good goalkeeper, I think, but he's prone to the odd mistake. Ramsdale at the moment hasn't made a mistake, so I don't know.
Yeah, so Ramsdale's faced a tough Burnley and Norwich attack.
I'd have Odegaard over any of your midfield players because I just think like.
You serious?
Yeah. Who would you have?
Instead of Odegaard, I'd put Ndombele in there.
Well, I think he's a good player for he lasts about 40 minutes, doesn't he?
But what 40 minutes?
He is a good player. Well, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like Odegaard, I think he's going to be a very, very good player. Skip wouldn't get in front of Partey, and that Højbjerg, I think he's a player that you don't. He's not a great player, but he's a player that don't. He's one of those players that take him out of the team, and you realise he's not a bad player. Do you know what I mean? Like if he's in the team, you don't think. Well, you think like
Exactly.
you know. So I can go the two up front. I think. You've got Song's got to get in there at the moment. Like as I say, like
Son on the left,
Song
Kane
and,
up top, and Saka on the right.
I would probably go with that. You know, Aubameyang wouldn't get near it at this moment in time, and you know, like Harry Kane, as poor as he's been for Tottenham at the moment, you can't write him off. You can't write him off.
Yeah,
you
but
know,
I think it's
Saka's not exactly had the best season so far, has he?
No, he hasn't. I don't. We was talking about this the other day. I don't think any England player has. If you go through the whole England squad, Pickford's not even playing. I don't think I don't think Stones has played that many games.
No,
Maguire's been a bit shaky. Shaw ain't played very. Walker hasn't. So like all of them have been a little bit like
Grealish has had the best start to
Grealish,
Sterling,
So Sterling's not hardly played.
I didn't even notice that, but you're right.
So there's not really that many
all
of.
the focus is on Kane.
So of course they do, and if you ever look at it, not really any of them have really have done too much. So you know, but you listen. Those players are good players. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been where they are. But I would say, like 2 or 3 seasons ago, we would have struggled getting in 2 or 3 players. You know that. You know, never heard of him even going through all of my Arsenal and Spurs times. You know what I mean? Like you go back to the 80s and all that. Like we'd get 4 or 5 in. But there was that stage when there was only 2 or 3. But now, like, listen, and football can change so quickly. Look at Dele Alli. Dele Alli would have got in most of those combination teams a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? But
well, he's a CDM now, so
yeah, I just so it's a strange. Football can change very quickly.
Definitely true.
Yeah.
But before we get some fans starts calling in show, what is your prediction for the weekend?
5-0 to Arsenal.
5-0.
No, I think it's going to be tight. How can you predict on an Arsenal Spurs game? As I say it now, I will say it now. Because we're at home, I fancy this because we're at home. If it was the other way around, if it was at Tottenham, I'll be honest and say that I'd fancy you guys. But because we're at home, I just think that maybe we nick it. But it's too close to call, really. So. But I've got to be confident, especially in here. I've got to go for an Arsenal win.
What score though?
Well, listen. That bloody Harry Kane doesn't score, and it doesn't look like bloody scoring, but he'll score.
He's going to do it again, that bastard, Harry Kane.
You know he's going to do. You know he's going to score. So Harry Kane will get one, but I'm going to go 2-1.
2-1.
Or Kane penalty.
Well,
he likes a penalty.
He loves a penalty against Arsenal.
loves a
You know what I mean?
penalty
So do you know when he takes a penalty against Arsenal? And I think he's had, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah,
you know he's never going to miss.
Yeah.
He ain't never going to miss. And I tell you what, like you can, talk about Harry Kane whether he wants to leave leave Spurs or not, which obviously he did want to. This game is a different game where he'll perform in this game. I think Harry Kane is in a difficult position what he actually does, because if he plays really well and scores loads of goals, he's not going to be able to move. So what does he do? Does he just go through the motions and just?
If he does that, will he get his move?
Well, he's got a better chance because
I'm
I
saying
think
if he has a
Tottenham
poor season this year, is anyone really spending the money that Levy wants on him?
At 29 years of age.
Yeah, that's this is the predicament he's got, but I think he's got a better chance of move. Do you know, how I put it here is that I had 3 sensational seasons with Alexis Sanchez. I mean, sensational. Mm-hmm. And then in the last season when we didn't let him go at Man City, he from August to January, he was a completely different player. Harry Kane might be thinking, well, I can do the same. That might get me out of here. I don't know.
Do you think that's how the players actually think, or do you think it's more of a subconscious thing?
A little bit subconscious. I think that, in my opinion, Harry Kane feels that something was said, because whatever you think about Harry Kane, he's ultimate professional, quality player. But for him to go on strike or do what he done, he obviously felt there was something promised. But I don't know. It's a real difficult one on that. I suppose the Spurs fans are split on this, because I know some Spurs fans are now saying, I wish we had got rid of him or whatever.
Yeah, but it's people saying that at the moment, there's only 5 games in, you know what I mean?
It's all about the circumstances, though, and if you don't get the right bid, he's not going to go, you know what I mean?
No, and I agree with that. If I think that if Man City what they're saying there is that they said they only offered 75 million. Well, that's, come on, he's a £100 million player.
I mean, they offered more for Jack bloody Grealish
Yeah.
than Harry Kane.
Yeah. So, but Jack Grealish is a little bit younger. The problem Harry Kane's got is is he 28 now, 29 or 28?
28, yeah.
He's 28. You know, if you're going to buy him for 100 whatever million, there ain't nothing after that, like, so.
Ronaldo went for 100 at 33 or 34.
Yeah, but you putting Harry Kane into that bracket
Not
now?
like that.
He's
You
28,
know, if
he's
Harry
5 years
Kane goes to
younger.
Man City, he's scoring bucket loads of goals every season.
Well, listen, I think you're right. I think that if Harry Kane would have signed for Man City would be favourites for the league. They're not favourites for the league now because they haven't got centre forward.
Exactly.
So for them, I think it's bad on them that they didn't go out and get. You know that it left him a little bit. Like
They left him high and dry.
Left him high and dry a little bit, yeah, because he's come out and basically said he wants to go, so he's done his part realistically, and they haven't gone through with their part.
Facts of the matter is they thought they could bully Spurs into just
Well, yeah,
offering an amount, and that was it.
listen, if Harry Kane was promised that he could leave for 100 million, then that's and then Manchester City are bidding 75, then Harry Kane has got to say, well, that's not right. I'm going to, so he should have actually been going to them and saying, bid the 100 million.
Apparently, it's speculation, but apparently Levy was basing Kane's valuation on how much Arsenal paid for Ben White, and that was 50 million.
Yeah,
you got to say, if Ben White is 50, like, come on, Kane is at least 120, 140.
Exactly, but that doesn't work like that. Harry Maguire was 80 million. You know what I mean? Like, Harry Kane's a better player than Maguire, but they're different positions. And I do think there is that thing with the English player, that there is that little bit more money involved. I honestly think
premium there is,
and I honestly think if it weren't for the pandemic, it messed Harry Kane up for a move to Barcelona or Real Madrid. I think that
I don't
that
think
would
he
have
wanted to go there, though.
No, well, so it's difficult when you
You
without.
just want him out of Tottenham.
You
want him out.
listen, I'm going to be really honest. I hope he stays there and carries on doing what he's doing. Not playing well and all that, because one, you ain't getting the Harry Kane of last year and the years, and you ain't getting the money.
He's
for
had
it.
slow starts to the season before, and he's ended up Golden Boot winning.
Yeah, he once went 9 games out.
Yes, he is, but he didn't want to put in transfer requests and say that he wanted to leave. So it's a difficult one. How it goes. I don't know if he feels let down by Levy or whatever. These are things.
I think the whole club let down by Levy. You know what I mean? Not just Harry Kane, the fan base, the players, everything.
And you have to ask yourself the question: why did he sign the contract? Because he would have been out to go for nothing.
Well, it looked like we were going in the right direction when he did sign the contract.
Yeah. So there's all circumstances to it. It'd be very interesting to see how it pans out.
I'm talking about ownership. Like, were you at the protests was it for the Super League last year?
The Cronkies, yeah.
Against the Cronkies.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, there was a smaller protest, unfortunately, when Spurs did it last year for the Super League against Levy. Like, what do you think of those protests from a Tottenham point? Like, looking at obviously.
Listen, I look at Tottenham.
Yeah.
I look at Tottenham, and you can have a go at Levy. You can do whatever you want, but he's there every week.
Mm-hmm.
Our owner's not. So from that point of view, I'm not. I can never have a go at Levy for that, because that's what I want my owner. I'm not saying that it's what he's doing is great. I don't know what goes on at Spurs, but ultimately, when I look up to the director's box and we're playing crap, I see an empty seat. When you are seeing Levy there, and I don't care. He goes up and down the country, so it means that he does care. Now, Manchester United throw money after money, and they're not happy with their owner. So I don't know where you go with it. Like, you know what I mean? I think that Levy cares about Spurs, so I don't think that can be brought into question. But with our owners, I can't say that because they're never there.
But do you think these protests work? Are they going to make any sort of change?
Personally, no. You know what I mean? Do you think Levy's worried what you think and what?
No, not at all.
Do you think Kroenke's worried what I think? Of course not. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to do what they want to do.
What do you think of the forums he did over the summer and all that stuff? Those fan forums, didn't they?
PR stuff, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where are they now? You know, he said to, like, be excited. Well, I haven't been excited for about 3 years now.
You spent
You know
a
what I
fair
mean?
bit of money this
We have
summer.
spent some money this season, like, you know, sometimes you have to spend a bit of money, like, which are not glamorous signings, but you have to fill in on players that are going to do the job. I like what Arsenal have done with big signings now, like Gabriel, Partey, big strong players down the spine, you know what I mean? Like a goalkeeper, we say we don't know what's going on. Tommy Hasu looks like he's going to be a decent player. So they're not glamorous signings, but you still need that one, don't you? Like, you know, an exciting signing every now and then.
Do you think that your transfer policy you've done this summer might be forcing Arteta, might be forcing your hand when it comes to sacking Arteta in a weird way? Because you spent a lot of money on a lot of young players who clearly you've bought to fit Arteta's vision, and then if you're going to do that, you need to give a manager a long-term project, and if you're not going to give him that, then are these players going to fit the next manager's project, and you might be stuck in a bit of a
that's a great question. It don't bother Chelsea. You know what I mean? Like their structures and things like that. I know there's a different level, but they don't think, oh, we just bought so and so Lukaku. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't work at Chelsea, you're out. And I kind of like that.
I think it's a bit different because Chelsea are buying world-class talent for the here and the now.
Who can play for anyone.
Yeah,
who can
of
play for
course.
anyone. You're buying players in Arteta's image, kind of thing.
No, young players, very young.
We're bringing in young players. I think that's. Listen, I think that somewhere along the line you can't compare Chelsea and Man City to the likes of Arsenal and Spurs, because we're in different things. So we like for instance, right, with Chelsea, they buy Werner for 50 million. Like, oh, that ain't worked, so we're going to buy Lukaku the next season.
Yeah.
Arsenal and Spurs have, and other teams, Liverpool as well, you can put into this category, have got to make sure that when they buy these players that they get it right. Otherwise, you know. And not every transfer is going to be right, as you know, but it puts pressure on the transfer people to make sure they get that right, because they haven't got to worry, because they've got to worry about it. But ultimately, listen, you know, if Arteta can't get a tune out of these players, and Arsenal have got some good players, which they shouldn't be at the bottom of the league. So the only way that Mikel Arteta is going to save his job, guys, is if he wins games. The same as Nuno. You know what I mean? Nuno's at the moment, he's got a little bit of credit because he's new. But ultimately, if he was to lose 5 games on the trot, I don't care. If you was to lose your next 5 games, I'll bet you, I'll say it now, like, Nuno will be gone. You know, if you're bottom of the league come the end of October, it's gone.
Yeah,
so you've got to win games of football. It doesn't matter what players you buy and whatever. You've got to win games of football. So when you take a job like Tottenham and Arsenal, you're going to have pressure, and you've got to make sure that you get the results. It's as simple as that. It's tough for Arsenal and Spurs to get into the top 4 is very, very difficult, because 2 of them, I personally think, in Chelsea and Man City, are done deals.
Yeah.
So I
think all 4 are done deal this
season. So you've really got to be competing with Manchester United and Liverpool to get. That's tough.
And they just signed Ronaldo and Varane.
They just signed them, and Sancho, who, by the way, £74 million, and is not even really going to get in the team this year, but they can afford to do that.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're going for an Arsenal win, Sim. What are you going for?
I'm going to go for a Spurs win, 2-1.
2-1 Spurs.
Just 2-1 away win, first win since 2010.
I'm going for a Spurs win as well. I'm going to go for 2-0. I'm going to go for Arsenal not to get a goal, and that's not delusion, by the way. That's not delusion. That is going on. You know, the defence that we're going to play this weekend is pretty much the same setup as we had the first 3 games when we did keep 3 clean sheets, including one against Man City. So I think that with a Romero and a Dyer at the back, with Tanganga on the right and Reguilon on the left, with a Skippy and a Højbjerg in front protecting the back 4. I really think we can hold you out this weekend. I really think that.
Hope he's right.
Well, I'll have what you're having tonight then.